You know, Yuji is down for the count at this point because in the last chapter, like after Sukuna separated from him and put himself into like his pinky and, you know, went to Megumi, he leveled Yuji. Like, I guess this is like the most serious strike he's ever taken in the series. Like, in this panel, it looks like he's like going through his torso. Like, this is like death. And he's sent through a building and lands on top of a skyscraper. So he's going to need some serious divine intervention here to come back from this. So I think we might all have a similar idea as to what could be going on with him here. And it goes back to chapter 12 because Gojo says that in due time, your body will learn Sukuna's curse technique. And it's like really interesting the way that he says it here, like looking back on the latest chapter, like your body. And now that Sukuna like isn't in Yuji anymore, is this the time when he like develops his abilities? And I guess as a result, he also could pick up reverse curse technique too, since Sukuna does that. But that's a whole other thing. But just at least his curse technique could possibly come into play here. What do you guys think about that?
So I've actually thought about that, and that's been one of the more popular ideas circulating around, and I think it's an interesting one. I think there have been a lot of times where like we as a fan base have just been like, Yuji, please do something, like bring out an ability, bring out something new, because like you are getting cooked by everybody around you, right? I mean, it's kind of been that way since the end of Shibuya. Yuji's been sort of outclassed physically and cursed energy wise and all that stuff. And I do think that if he did develop these techniques, it would be good for his like battle power. The only reason I think it may not be time for Yuji yet is simply because, one, he would have to learn reverse curse technique first, which is possible. I mean, we've seen Gojo learn reverse curse technique on the cusp of death in his fight versus Toji, so it's 100% possible. But the reason I think it's also possible that he doesn't develop it here and we get assistance maybe from outside colonies now that Yorozu, the sorcerer that incarnated in Sumiki rather, open up the barriers, we may get outside players helping or attacking Sukuna.
But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, HelloFresh. Guys, remember those New Year's goals you promised yourself you'd stick to? HelloFresh is here to help you eat fresh better by delivering fresh ingredients and easy recipes right to your door. Because you can get HelloFresh and skip that extra trip to the grocery store and the long checkout lines. No matter your lifestyle or meal preferences, HelloFresh has recipes sure to please everyone at your table, from calorie smart or carb smart to veggie or family friendly. You'll always find something even the pickiest eaters will enjoy. Guys, I gotta admit, I love HelloFresh. I tried the firecracker meatballs, and not only was it surprisingly fun, but it also tasted incredible. Like, they're not lying about restaurant quality. HelloFresh also helps me with the grind of YouTube. I don't have to worry about what I'm gonna eat next, or what I'm gonna prepare, or if I'm gonna order something, because it's all here for me. And it's also stress relieving. So guys, go to HelloFresh.com and use code Zhoniin65 for 65% off plus free shipping. Thanks, guys.
But the reason I think Yuji may not come into play with the technique here is simply because I don't think it changes much of how the fight goes. Like, I think the moment Yuji will come in here and really like have his technique or have a technique or something to play around with is personally because I think that will be like a fight changer, right? Like before the technique, he's losing and there's no matter what he does, he can't win. But after the technique, he'd be able to not so much as dominate his opponent, but it would be like pre-awakening Gojo versus Toji versus post-awakening Gojo versus Toji. But when I look at him now, and I look at the prospect of him awakening and blossoming as a sorcerer, I still like I try to piece any technique together, maybe the anti-gravity technique, and I'm like, that's not enough to beat Sukuna. Maybe it's Sukuna slashing techniques, right? Maybe he has dismantle and cleave, and even at this point, I'm like, would that be enough to beat Sukuna? Because it seems that he's stronger. It seems that Sukuna's stronger and faster. He now has more variety and versatility. He's more intelligent. I feel like we need characters that have the experience to deal with what Sukuna's got at this point in time. I'm open to other ideas, obviously, and we're going to see in these next few chapters whether or not Yuji's going to be making a move. But I really wonder if Yuji's going to be able to bounce back quickly enough to develop a technique and then be a useful component in a fight against Sukuna.
Yeah, I mean, I love kind of what you said, Ronin, where kind of we all know at this point that Yuji needs some kind of power up. He needs some kind of awakening, and if if there wasn't a better time for it, then now is. I mean, one thing that I've also kind of considered, because in my opinion, and you guys can check me if you think I'm wrong or if you have any kind of different viewpoints, but I feel like even though we were told that Yuji will eventually adapt and grow into Sukuna's curse technique, whether it be, like Ronin said, the chef technique, or it even be something like his mom's curse technique, like the anti-gravity. I feel like one thing I kind of view is, even if Yuji was to develop the slashing technique, I personally don't think he would use it just based off the trauma he has surrounding the entire event that Sukuna, basically destroyed an entire city with it. We know Yuji's very specific with his emotions and very limiting to himself in those aspects. I mean, heck, that was part of the whole reason why Sukuna was even able to pull off this trick here, because Yuji doesn't view himself, or, has very self-deprecating views. So one, I think even if he was to develop a curse technique, like Ronin said, I don't really see that being his exit in this scenario. But one thing I've also heard is, we already know based off the ending of the chapter that, it's possible Hana or Angel may be exiting the fight soon based off of what we've seen. So I've also heard theories and rumors that Yuji may become a vessel again, but this time he'll become a vessel of Angel. I don't know what you guys think of that, or if you guys have any other opinions on Yuji, but
I think like Yuji right now, like kind of Zhoniin said earlier, you can see like the punch kind of going through his stomach, and blood is literally splatting from his back. So that implies that, yeah, the punch went through. He has an anime donut hole. So yeah, like outside colonies, someone could come up. Really, Yuta, I think, is like the only option, and some others, but I don't think Kashima or anyone else would heal Yuji. Either him, or if it's not Yuta, then it's got to be himself unlocking reverse curse technique, going through some sort of awakening or enlightening moment. And like another aspect to, I guess, characters going through awakening, like Gojo, Maki, etc., is that their mentality sort of changes as well. With Gojo in the Toji fight, when we first saw him like feel the core of cursed energy and unlock reverse curse technique, he was in like this transcendent state, saying like, I can't remember, but it was like, "Oh, sorry, Amane, I'm not angry for you, nor do I feel vengeful toward anyone." And from that quote, plus like the visual representation of him floating in the sky and actually feeling free, it showed that Gojo had truly released all his past sufferings, and thus being able to tap into the core of cursed energy. And we've seen like that similar a mindset change happen with Megumi, needing to be more selfish, and then Maki with her sumo wrestle, and I think Chozo as well. So given that Yuji's on the brink of death, or is dead, but with the pretense of eventually coming back, then yeah, there's no better time to have an enlightening moment after this whole Sukuna stuff dies down, if it dies down. But I don't see Yuji waking up the next chapter and, him fighting Sukuna.